And then we hear something walking in, and it's big. And we're like, is this a bear? And just step. And it's not like trying to be sneaky or anything. It's just making a lot of noise, and it's coming in, and the dog would not move. The dog is sitting up like we are in trouble if this thing attacks. So we tried to just keep a defensive position. It just stood there and like stared us down for, and again, 6 or 7 minutes doesn't sound like a long time, but when you're in the middle of nowhere and there's like this big, it's an animal. You don't know what it is. Is it Bigfoot? Is it a bear? Like whatever it is, it ain't good. Like this is something that could take us down easily. It's not doing anything. It's not coming closer. It's not moving off. It's just staring at us. And again, it's almost like a human thing. It's almost just like, you know, come at me, bro.
So today's story comes from my buddy Jason over in New York State. Now, we've spoken over the last few years a few times and sort of followed each other's podcast and YouTube channels. And what I love about Jason is like his pragmatic view of looking at strange occurrences. And his story, or I should say stories, might find you all grasping at straws trying to explain away his experiences deep in the wilderness of New York. But I'm getting ahead of myself here, and Jason's experience started when he and his buddy Josh were out hiking after the COVID lockdown had been eased back in 2020.
New York State is rural, it's trees, it's valleys, it's rivers, and the Adirondacks are really deep forest. You know, it's not really populated. There's little towns dotting it, but it's deep woods. And my friend Josh and I, we like doing this primitive camping. So it's there's campsites, but it's not like a family campground. You got to hike miles to get there. You're not just driving up in your car and pulling out your gear and setting up a tent. So we did this trip in August of 2020. So the pandemic was kind of calming down a little bit, and you know, they were saying, yeah, it's summer, you can kind of relax the rules a little bit. So we went out camping, and we found this place called Ross Pond. It was up in the Hudson Gorge wilderness, and it was remote. You know, like we drove to the trailhead, and the trailhead road is just in the middle of nowhere. So you're not even like in civilization. There's a road there, but there's nothing really there. And then we hiked another 3 miles into this campsite, and it's, you know, you have to go over a mountain essentially. I mean, it's not Mount Everest or anything. Clearly, it's a foothill. But when you're carrying 70 pounds on your back, and you know, we had a cooler too. It's a lot, and we were dragging a cooler with us. It was summer, you know, it was late August, so we had a cooler full of, you know, beer and ice and water. So we had a lot with us, and we hike, and normally we bring weapons with us. We usually bring a shotgun or something, just because you're out there and you need to defend yourself.
Yeah.
And this trip, Josh brought his dog, Jax, who was a really big German Shepherd. And we said, let's leave the guns at home. Like every time we bring them, we don't need them. And they weigh us down. So we get up there, and first day is pretty uneventful. I mean, it was a rough hike. We got up there. I remember just laying down on the ground and drinking water. Like we were exhausted. And then of course, like the rain clouds start coming in, so we can't even relax. We got to like get the tents up, get the tarps up. So we do all that. We had stashed the cooler like a mile back because we just got tired of carrying it. So we had to like backtrack another mile, get the cooler, and then drag that back another mile.
So after all that hiking, the backtracking and the bad weather coming in, Jason, Josh, and the German Shepherd, Jax, begin to settle down for their first night in the woods.
It's early, and it was very windy. The rain had stopped, but the wind just kept going all night. And one little weird thing that happened that night, and this is, I don't know if this is related or not, but we were in our tents, and it's maybe like 9 o'clock at night, and we see some lights, and we hear like women talking. We can't hear words. We just hear, it just sounds like women talking in the distance. And we're like, is somebody coming into our camp? Because we were deep, and 8 o'clock at night, and it was a rough hike. This wasn't like a nice manicured trail. This was rock climbs and streams and jumping over logs. And then it just disappeared. And I remember looking at my tent, and there was just nothing. It was just black. Like you could not see anything. And we did not encounter anybody that entire trip. So I don't know what that was, but we both saw like faint light. So we thought it was a flashlight. We thought people were coming in, and there was nobody.
And after seeing those strange lights, you might think, okay, maybe it's time to pack up in the morning. But no, not this crew. They fall asleep and wake up in the morning like nothing had happened and just carried on with their day. Maybe with this strange light experience now in the back of their minds, they spent the rest of the next day relaxing around the lake and gathering campfire for that night. And they begin to cook their evening meal and settle down when all of a sudden, the dog senses something just outside the camp.
It had just gotten dark, so we had this big roaring fire going. We collected firewood all day, so we had this nice big roaring fire, and we're talking, and suddenly the dog just starts looking to our right, and the lake is behind us, and then we hear something walking in, and it's big, and we're like, is this a bear? And just step, and it's not like trying to be sneaky or anything. It's just making a lot of noise, and it's coming in, and the dog would not move. The dog is sitting up and just looking at this, and the ears are up, and so it moves in, and it's in the tree line maybe 40 feet in front of us, and we're shining our flashlights because we're trying to see if we can see what this thing is, and we're seeing eye shine, and it's blinking, and we're both standing up, and it's like eye height with us, and we're both over 6 foot tall. And where we were looking, where this was, there was a bit of a ravine, and then there was like a cliff past that, but there's this deep ravine, and where this thing was standing, and we checked the next morning, it was about 9 feet tall.
Okay.
Where it was from behind the tree, and we're just seeing this eye shine, and we're yelling. We have sticks because we didn't bring any guns, so we grabbed some sticks that we had used to prop up the tarps the night before. We had sharpened them just so that the grommets of the tarp would stick to the sticks.
Yeah.
So now we got like one hand on our knives, we have another hand on our sticks, and we're yelling at this thing. We're stamping the sticks, and this thing would not move. It was just looking at us. And just for anybody who doesn't know, black bear up in New York State, one, they're very skittish. They don't approach humans like this. And if they do, if you make noise, they run off. They're just very skittish. And the only time you're really going to have a trouble with the black bear up in New York is if you kind of run into a mama bear and her cubs and they don't hear you coming. Like if you startle her, then you're going to have a problem. But otherwise, they just run off. And so it's just very weird, and it stayed there for about 6 or 7 minutes by my timing, because I kept looking at my watch. I'm like, why is this thing not moving off? And it's just weird that it would come into camp when we're so deep, and we were being loud. Like I said, we had the campfire going, and we're just talking, and we're like, deep voice, big guys. And we're laughing and just throwing wood on the fire, and then it just walked off, after about 6 or 7 minutes, and just very slowly just walked off.
After this encounter, Jason and Josh decided that they would not like another visit from whatever it was, and thinking logically that it could be an animal, after their food, they decide to move the food out of camp, and they finally get into their tents when something else strange occurs.
So we finally go to bed about 1:30, and like as soon as we get in our tent, we hear an owl going off, clearly an owl, and then something answers it, and it sounds like a person doing an owl call. Like it does not sound, it sounds like not an owl. It sounds like a guy just being like, hoo, hoo, and we're like, what is that? And I took out my phone and I tried to record it, and it didn't really show up on the microphone, but you hear Josh and I talking, and we're like, is that another bird? Is that like it's not an owl. Like it sounds like an owl, but we've heard owls before, and they're very clearly owls. I said, this sounds like a dude trying to mimic an owl. And we're like, we're out here by ourselves. I'm like, did somebody sneak into camp? Like, but how could they have done? There's no light pollution out there. It is dark at night. Yeah. And so finally we go to sleep. No more incidents after that. But the next morning I take Josh down, and I'm like, look, here's where this thing was standing. Here's the tree, very distinct tree. There's no branches or anything on it. And I'm, he's back at camp, and I'm like, let me raise my hand and you tell me where you saw the eyes. And I put my fingertips like way above my head. So you're talking like 8.5 feet where the eyes were. And we took video of all this and everything because we wanted to sort of document it and say, yeah, like what could this have been? You know, a black bear, even standing up, black bears are about 5 feet tall. I mean, they can get bigger. If this was an 8 foot tall black bear, it's an outlier. And even then
Mm.
it's cool. And it's like bears it's like a giant black bear. Like they don't typically get that big.
Yeah.
Some other people suggested maybe it was a cat, and we're like, well, no, nothing. We didn't hear anything climbing a tree.
Mm.
And then
There'd
some
be
people said,
markings of that as well. You'd be able to see markings on a tree or something if it was a cat. The next morning, you'd be able to see
absolutely,
that sort of
yeah,
thing.
and yeah, people said owl, and we're like, no, like we heard this thing walk in, like the dog was looking at it, and the dog was scared. Like the dog would not go after this thing. The dog just sat there, and
Yeah.
he was paying attention, but most dogs will run. If they hear a squirrel or a raccoon, they're going to run after this thing and like defend the camp. And the dog just sat there looking and would not budge. And again, our flashlights couldn't reach where this thing was. I mean, we were getting eye shine, but we couldn't see a shape, and we didn't want to approach it. That's aggressive behavior. And it was like,
Yeah.
if this is a bear, if this is a moose, if this is something aggressive and it attacks us, we are 3 miles in complete darkness. And even if we can manage to get back to the car, you're talking probably like an hour drive to the hospital. Like we are in trouble if this thing attacks. So we tried to just keep a defensive position. But yeah, we went back, and the eyes were about 8 foot tall. And again, some people said maybe it was a moose, but this eye shine was like yellow, and moose eye shine was red. So, and again, we were just kind of curious, like, why did this thing come into camp? Like, if it hears us, it was just, and it didn't just keep moving. You'd think a moose or something's like, oh crap, there's people there, let me just keep going, or a bear or whatever. It just stood there and like stared us down for, and again, 6 or 7 minutes doesn't sound like a long time, but when you're in the middle of nowhere and there's like this big, it's an animal, you don't know what it is. Is it Bigfoot? Is it a bear? Like whatever it is, it ain't good. Like this is something that could take us down easily.
After they finally manage to get some shut-eye, they make it to morning with no more disturbances, and they decide to head down the small ravine to see if anything did take the food from the cooler that they left there the night before. And they really start to reflect on the strange occurrences from the night before.
There were no tracks the next morning. We went and checked, and like a bear probably wouldn't have left prints because the ground was not super soft, but you'd think that if a moose went by, like the hooves would have damaged the dirt, especially on an incline.
Yeah.
Like, and it was just very strange.
Well, so obviously you talk about hearing the footsteps to begin with. So, I mean, could you tell whether it was something walking on 4 legs or potentially something walking on 2? Could you sort of tell with the pattern of the footsteps?
It sounded like something on 2 legs, because most animals, you're hearing the thump 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 thump. It's the 3 or the 4 at a time. Because they're moving. This just sounded like step, step, step. So it could have been a bear moving very slowly, but to me we thought it was a person at first. Honestly, it was like somebody coming into camp. Because we've been out at other places too where we think we're very deep, and then people pass through. Not at that time of night. It's usually during the day where you get through hikers will come through just out for a walk. They're not camping. They're just kind of, we wanted to come walk around the lake. And we've had that at a lot of other places, but this is like one of the few places we've been to where we didn't see another soul. Like there was just nobody. And at first we just thought somebody was coming in, but the dog wouldn't bark. It was just weird that, and this was a big dog. You're talking like 150 pound, 170 pound dog, like big German Shepherd. And I just can't see him not barking. If this was a person, or if this was even a smaller, if it was a raccoon, he would have ran after it. And, Josh probably would have had to restrain him and say, no, like stay, like don't go after this thing.
Yeah.
But the dog just kind of sat there and just like we were doing, just kind of staring, like bracing itself, like we may have to fight. So it was just a very weird experience. And like I said, it just didn't act like bears do up there. And we don't have grizzly in New York. It's only black bear, and people will tell you they're like big dogs. They're skittish. They don't want anything to do with people. If they do come into your camp, they usually come in once you're asleep. They come in once everything is quiet. the fire is out. They know the signs, they know exactly how people operate. They'll try to get into your car. If you have a cooler in your car, you'll hear them trying to, open the door. They go for the door handles. Like, they know because they've done it before. If you leave your car unlocked, they'll open the door and get your cooler. So it was just weird that we're making a lot of noise, and the sun had just gone down, and you have this entire lake. It's not like it's got to pass through to get somewhere else. It could have taken a different route and gotten to where it needed to be without getting so close to us and then just staring at us, like blinking. You see the eyes just blinking, staring at us. Not briefly, 6-7 minutes. It was just, and Josh and I the whole time we're keeping an eye on this thing, and we're looking, we're talking to each other, not looking at each other, but we're like, if we have to fight, this is what we're going to do. We don't run. We don't, whoever it goes after, the other one has to go after this thing and start stabbing it and go for the eyes, go for the mouth, go for the nose, like the sensitive areas. Like, we're talking strategy about like life and death. Like, we, because we didn't know what this was.
I mean, it almost sounds like something was observing you, almost. It was sort of just watching what you were going to do, maybe, thinking about how what you and Josh are going to have to do to, if it is something and you have to attack or defend yourselves, it could be thinking the same thing. It's thinking, oh, I've stumbled into something here. What's my next move?
Yeah, and again, most animals aren't going to do that, because we were screaming, get out of here, we're banging the sticks, and we're trying to make as much noise as we can to scare this thing off. And it just stood looking at us. And that's what I'm saying. Like, even if it was a bear being unbear-like, or a moose being unmoose-like and kind of passing close to us, you'd think after we were making that noise and banging the sticks all right, it would move off. But 6 or 7 minutes is a long time to just stare us down, and it just it felt weird. It just felt like, why is, like, it's not doing anything, it's not coming closer, it's not moving off, it's just staring at us. And again, it's almost like a human thing. It's almost just like, come at me, bro.
Now, swiftly moving on from that scary encounter with something strange in the mountains of the Adirondacks, Jason then tells me of something else strange that he saw one day in the sky in the early 2000s while visiting a local store in his town.
So this had to be like early 2000s, and it was my one of my wedding anniversaries, second or third. So I was like, I'm going to go down to the jewelry store and get my wife something. And I was off this day. It was a holiday, but she had to go into work. It was one of these, like, not very big holidays, so different companies had different policies. And so I drove down to the commercial district in Brooklyn where the jewelry store was, parked my car, went to the store, and I was there like an hour early. It was like, oh shit, they don't open for another hour. And I was like, well, I'm not going to drive all the way home and then come, like, by the time I get home, I'd have to turn back around. So I was like, I'm just going to hang out in the car and I'll listen to the radio. And so I'm sitting in the car, and out on the horizon, like above one of the apartment buildings, I see this black triangle. And it's just hanging out there, and I'm like, oh, that's weird. And I could keep track of this because I'm listening to the radio, so there's like song after song, and the radio has a clock on it, so I'm just timing this thing. And like I said, planes, like, they can look like they're stationary if they're coming at you. So at first I thought that's what it was. I was like, this is like a plane or something. And then, the second song comes on, the third song comes on, and I'm like, and this thing is just hovering there. And I'm just watching it and watching it, and it's just this black triangle is not moving. It's staying in the same spot. So then I get out of the car, because I'm like, maybe like this is just some like weird optical illusion that I can't see what it is from the car. So I get out of the car, I walk like 2 blocks up, and I can still see this thing. And there's other people on the street, and no one's looking at it. It wasn't huge, it was in the distance, but very clearly like a black, it almost looked like a black pyramid. It was just pointy on top and, flat on the bottom, and it wasn't moving. So I go back to the car, and I continue to watch this. And now I'm getting, it's like, all right, it's 41 minutes, 42 minutes, 40. And I was like, that is not a helicopter. That's not a plane. Like, nothing stays that stationary for that long.
Yeah.
And then I watch, it kind of drops like glitter almost, like little shiny things start coming out of the bottom of it. And I'm
Oh.
like, what the fuck am I and this is like 10 o'clock on a Monday morning, you know, and I'm like, it's broad daylight, it's a sunny day in October. I'm like, what is this thing dropping?
Yeah.
And then that stopped and is still hovering there. Now I'm like 48 minutes, 49 minutes. And then it's gone. I didn't see it zoom off or anything. It was just like I blinked and it was gone. And I remember going home and like the internet was still kind of in its infancy, because you're talking, this is maybe like 2002, 2003. And I'm looking online, like, did anybody else report this? I went to like MUFON. I went to, you know, just to see if anybody reported it, just to see if there was any military exercises in the area. But it was just this black, like, pyramid. It was triangular shaped, but just it looked like a black pyramid in the sky. And at one point it dropped
Something
like glitter from it. I don't know what they were. They looked like little lights or it looked like glitter, you know, like if you can imagine that just from a distance. And then like in the blink of an eye, I just blinked and then I couldn't find it ever again. And I'm like, where did this go? And I was taking my eye off it because, like I said, I'm looking at the clock. I got out of the car, so I had to get out of the car, lock it, you know, walk up the block, pay attention to street lights and traffic, and I could still see this. So it wasn't like a trick of my eye. It was there.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Again, I use UFO because unidentified means unidentified. To me, it doesn't mean alien necessarily. Like, it just means I don't know what it was, and clearly not a plane or a helicopter, and kind of too early in time for it to really be like drones or anything like that. Like, you're talking, like I said, it's probably about 2003. You know, people may ask, well, why did you take a picture of it? And it's like, well, the phones back then didn't really have cameras in them, you know, like nowadays everyone's got an iPhone or an Android and it's got, you know, better cameras than professional photographers have. Back then I had like a little flip phone and it may have had a camera that, you know, you would take a picture of something and totally pixelated and, you know, but I don't even know if my phone had a camera at that point, because I would have tried to take a picture. So,
what, again, like I say at the end of every episode, what do you think of Jason's story? Was him, Josh, these three names, really difficult to say in a row. Was him, Josh, and Jax stalked by something in the woods that night? And what about the other strange occurrences? The lights in the woods and the voices and that strange thing imitating an owl. And of course his final experiences years earlier with the strange black pyramid in the sky. Let me know what you think about his story in the comments below. And remember, we're just here to talk about people's experiences. Whether you believe them or not, it's down to you. Now, next week, after spending a few weeks in the USA on the last few episodes, we're heading back to good old Blighty, and this is our first case of a potential possession.
That kind of shocked me, that I've actually got a picture of something that I've actually seen. I was questioning myself. I thought, is it me?
I slightly shook him. I said, Eric, come to my voice, son. Come to me. You know, listen to my voice. But as to how I felt, I have not got a clue. All I know is it shocked me. It has left a scar. I will admit that it's traumatised me.
And the medium that obviously saw this bloke, he literally ran out the house and he says, I can't help you. You know, and he just left and he never sort of come back again. And he refused to come back. You know, I said to him back and he was like, no.
She's mine.